If you've ever felt like you are drowning in clutter or just are otherwise overwhelmed by how much stuff you have, then I think minimalism might be a good solution for you. In today's video, we are breaking down the basics of minimalism and how to start your decluttering process. As a former shopaholic, I can personally attest to the benefits of adapting to this lifestyle. And while I am far from a perfect minimalist, if there is such a thing, I have learned a lot along the way. So let's get into it. We don't always realize it, but clutter impacts us way more than we think. Studies show that a cluttered environment can increase stress, lower productivity, and even disrupt sleep. Have you ever felt anxious by just even looking at a messy room? That's because too much stuff can put our senses into like overdrive, and it makes it way harder to relax. And let's be so for real right now. How many times have you gotten frustrated from knowing you have something that you cannot find? Clutter isn't just physical, it definitely takes a mental toll as well. So what is minimalism? At least to me, minimalism is not getting rid of every single thing that you own and only having like one chair and a toothbrush. Minimalism is all about just being intentional. It's about making sure that the things that you have in your life actually benefit you and actually hold value and actually bring you joy. They aren't just there because they're there. So here's what you can gain from minimalism. Less stress. That is, I think, one of the biggest ones for me. A clear space means a clear mind. I don't care even if you are a maximalist, like you love a lot of decor, you love a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, like clutter, again, I'm talking about these things that are not adding value to you, is always going to cause stress. So the less that you have, the less you have to worry about, the less you have to deal with, the better you're going to feel mentally. The other thing I think you gain is more time. Because you're spending less time looking for things. You know exactly what you have. You spend less time cleaning, less time organizing. It frees up a lot of time and mental energy when you aren't having to worry about those things. The other main thing I think you really gain is financial freedom. Obviously, the less you are buying, the more you're able to save. And this is something that's particularly close to my heart, especially this year. If you're new here, I have been on a no-buy year. So I'm doing my first no-buy year where I'm not buying anything that is not necessary really, with the exception of a few of the things that I have already set in my rules. I am also trying to save $25,000 in 2025, and that's actually a little more than half of my take-home income. And so I have some aggressive saving goals this year. I have some aggressive financial goals in general. I think that this also complements really well into stopping this over consumerism. This is another thing I talk a lot about on this channel because I think it's crazy. I mean, the level of consumption, especially in the US where I am, is so toxic. Like, it's toxic. We are killing the planet. We are hurting ourselves, we are hurting our health, we are hurting our mental health, our physical health. There's just so many things that go into this overconsumption that I think has to stop. And so that is another major benefit of minimalism. I think the other main point here is increased productivity. I truly believe like we are at war for our attention. Our attention is becoming currency. And I think we need to take it more seriously how we are spending our time and like what we are putting our energy to. And having less stuff and not gaining things and the greed of these unnecessary purchases that aren't helping anybody other than like the elite that is orchestrating all of this. The fewer distractions we have, the more that we can focus on things that really do matter, like spending time with people you love and developing hobbies and actually gaining new skills and, you know, doing real life things that you can't be doing when you're just scrolling or shopping all day. The increased productivity is another massive benefit of minimalism. So collectively, minimalism is really just about making room for the things that actually matter. And I think decluttering is a great way to get the ball rolling in that direction, which leads us perfectly into my next point. Getting started with decluttering can feel overwhelming, but the key here is seriously just to take it one step at a time. I always recommend choosing one starting point. So don't feel like you have to declutter your whole house right away. Start small and start focused. This can look like your closet, your nightstand, even a singular drawer. Anything that keeps you from being overwhelmed so that you quit. Okay, we don't want you to quit. So don't bite off more than you can chew because you're gonna kind of set yourself up for failure right away. The decluttering process should feel like a positive experience. It may be tough at times, I'm not gonna lie. There's still times that I feel some serious connections to things that I may not really need to keep. But overall, you want it to be a pretty positive experience. And I think a lot of that starts with keeping it focused and starting small. The next step I would recommend is to use a 4-box method. So what this looks like is you have 4 separate boxes or 4 separate bins or bags, whatever you have, and you're gonna have one that is a keep, one that is a donate, one that is a trash, and one that is a maybe pile. You may also want to add an additional box possibly, which would be a sell pile. And that would be for anything that's you feel is particularly valuable, or for me personally, I had to declutter and am still decluttering a lot of my clothing. That is generally my kryptonite, is clothing. And so I'm working on getting rid of those, but there are a lot of those items that I've hardly worn. And so I was able to sell a lot of those on Poshmark. So that is an option that can add additional levels of overwhelm. And the other thing I will say with that is you need to actually have a plan to sell that thing. So when are you listing that item? How long are you going to leave that listing up before you just give it away or donate it or whatever that next phase in the life cycle of that item is? I have again, personally fallen into this trap where I'm like, oh, I could get money back for that. And so I'll leave it in a sell box for weeks or months. And now that thing is still taking up space. Have not eliminated the problem. So be realistic with yourself in that way. If you don't think that you're really gonna list it and sell it or anything, just keep to the 4-box method. But go through your things in that section, in that specific location that you have decided to go through, and then separate them out. Anything that you don't feel like an immediate reaction to, whether you really want to get rid of that item or you really want to keep that item, that is the item that is perfect for the maybe pile. So you can put that in the maybe and keep going. The other thing here, we want to make sure we're keeping momentum. So you don't want to be stuck staring at something you can't make a decision on for minutes at a time, because that's just going to slow you down and slow down your momentum and your motivation. If you are having trouble making a decision, these are some questions that I like to ask myself. This is the Marie Kondo thing, but does it spark joy? So when you have that item, are you genuinely happy to have that item? Another question to ask is, does it make my life better? Does it make my life easier? Do I use it regularly? If the answer to any of those questions is no, it might be time to let that item go. And then take this same framework and start applying it to all the other areas of your life. So even if you started with a drawer, the next day you're going to do another drawer, and then you're going to move on to the whole dresser, and then you're going to move on to your closet, and then to the whole bedroom, and then keep building yourself up as you go until you declutter the amount that you want to declutter. I think it's a great idea to go room by room as well. So really make sure that you've gone through your bedroom first, and then move on to the kitchen, and then move on to the living room. Again, just to kind of keep yourself focused and to not get into that feeling of overwhelm. Now, once you've decluttered, how do you keep things simple? Here are a few of the minimalist habits that I've developed that really help this. The very top number one most important thing here is you have to practice mindful consumption. you gotta stop the bleeding first, okay? You gotta stop bringing things in. Before buying anything new, ask yourself, do I really need this? Will this really benefit me? Am I going to still want this in 48 hours from now, or a week from now, or pick a time, any time frame that you want. But make sure that you're giving yourself that moment before you buy anything new to like really consider the purchase, and always choose quality over quantity. Another thing here too is you want to declutter digitally as well. So that looks like unsubscribing from emails, deleting unused apps, organizing your camera roll that's probably insane, she says to herself mostly. All of that is going to help you from not only removing the temptation, but also just not having that to worry about. Like, you know how frustrating it is when you look in your email and there's just a million marketing emails? Like, it's just a lot. So highly recommend a kind of digital declutter as well. That's also going to help stopping that consumption. Another thing I recommend here is sticking to things that you know you like. If you already have something that's working for you, why do you need to try something new? I think a lot of the times that is the consumerism mindset of like, no, you have to try this new item. I know that other thing is working for you, but this new one, oh, it's going to change your life. And most of the time, I don't know that that's true. It's feeling probably, again, a little more like a marketing tactic. And unfortunately, it is our responsibility as consumers to kind of see through that and recognize that, you know, it's actually probably not going to significantly change your life in most cases. Obviously, there may be some that it's worth trying a new thing or whatever if you've looked into that and it seems like a purchase that actually would significantly benefit you. But most of the time, I would say that stick to what you already know you like and don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need to try new products or new things that are going to like just, you know, make your life so much better, allegedly. So to sum this up, minimalism is not a one-time thing. It really is a lifestyle. You are changing the way that you live. So to sustain it, you want to develop daily habits that keep clutter from creeping back in. You also want to probably create a system. I love a one in, one out method. So an example of that is if I were going to buy a new shirt, which I'm not because of my no buy year, but if I were going to buy a shirt, I would then get rid of another shirt or clothing item that I already own so that it is one in, one out. I think it's also important to just get into the habit of regularly checking in on the things that you own. It's important to continually reassess what is actually serving you in your life. And a lot of this really just comes to the mindfulness of it. Like, we want to be intentionally designing our lives and intentionally designing the things around us so that they serve our life. So I think it's a really good idea to just kind of continually be reassessing to get rid of the things that aren't serving you anymore, and also just to know what is working for you. So yes, minimalism is a journey, not a destination, but trust me, the freedom of this is so worth it. I can't even tell you how different of a person I am even in the past like year or so of like taking this more seriously. I'm a totally different person and I love who I am now. I love how I am. I love how I consume. I love how I treat the world around me, and I just really couldn't recommend it enough. So if you are ready to start your decluttering journey, or if you're already on one, I would love to know where you are at, how you're doing, what are you tackling first? I know we're getting into spring cleaning time, so I'd love to know what you all are up to. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. We talk about money, minimalism, and just overall intentional living. If any of that interests you, I would love to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.